Welcome to Surrender School.
Okay. At Surrender School, we recover. Our mission is to share 12-step and other supportive recovery solutions with those who want a healthy relationship with food. We are not an official 12-step meeting, but we do try to adhere to the spirit of the traditions. If Surrender School has been helpful to your recovery, please consider donating. The donate button is at the bottom of the landing page of our website. All right, let's dive in. Take a moment to feel your breath. Just take a couple of nice, calming deep breaths. Bring your attention back to the here and now, in the present. Get grounded, feel your feet on the floor, and we will dive in. Okay. So today's topic is about fighting the starvation response, what it is and how to navigate it. So when I tweaked this talk a little bit this morning, I got less technical and a little bit more philosophical on it. So we'll see how you like it. So you've made a decision, right? We talked about making a decision. You've made a decision that you are willing to experience the physical and emotional discomfort of getting abstinent. So you've made that decision. You've survived the withdrawal and the detox, and you've landed on that nice, comfortable pink cloud. And you're sort of sailing along in your abstinence. You start losing some weight. You're feeling pretty great. Feels like the brain fog is lifted. Things are going really, really well. And you start feeling like, I've got this. I can do this. And then something weird happens. After you've lost about 8, 10, 12 pounds, all hell breaks loose. And you are starving. You've been fine for weeks, maybe a couple of months, 2 or 3 months. And all of a sudden, bam, the food is screaming at you. You can hear it all the way in the other room in the kitchen, through the refrigerator and everything. It is screaming at you. And you feel like you're going crazy, like you will die if you don't eat everything in the refrigerator. This is the starvation response. What it is a biochemical process that is designed specifically to drive us back into the food, particularly after we have lost some weight, because the body is interpreting this weight loss as an emergency. Our survival is being threatened. We have got to get this thing back to searching for food, getting food, and eating food. It is not, underline, bold, all caps, not a lack of willpower that drives you back into the food. It also has nothing to do with how well you took step 1, or if you truly surrendered to your higher power. It says nothing about how well you're working your program or how hard you're working on your relationship with your higher power. It doesn't have anything to do with any of that. It doesn't care how many OA tools you work. It doesn't have anything to do with you personally at all. It is a purely biological response. The whole purpose, like I said, of the starvation response is to get us to eat again and to regain the weight we've lost. And it does it in 2 ways. It makes us burn less calories and it makes us ramp up our hunger and our appetite exponentially, actually, like 10 times worse. If you want to know, if you're geeky and you want to know the specifics of the biochemical and neurochemical details of this process, you can just listen to session 3 of the Step 1 Science workshop. And I go into great detail about the hormones that are involved in this and how the whole process works. But I think I'm more interested today in how does the starvation response make us feel? And pardon my French, it makes us feel like shit, really bad. And it does that on purpose because it is trying to push us toward the food. And we will not be relieved of this bad feeling until we eat again and start gaining the weight back. We feel restless, irritable, and discontent, just like the big book talks about. I think that's a great description of these feelings. Our emotions, this is the tricky part, and this is what I really want to talk about today. Our emotions are all over the place, all over the place. You could be crying 1 minute, screaming the next minute. Pardon, guy, if there are any men in the room, but it's like really bad PMS. It's just really bad. The most disturbing symptom that I experienced was anxiety. And it would pop up like out of the middle of nowhere. I was minding my own business, doing my thing, and it would just show up. And it literally felt like that, like a jolt of adrenaline. And it would just be this incredibly panicked feeling. And it didn't feel like a true panic attack. I have had those, unfortunately. So I know what those look like. It wasn't a panic attack, but it was like I could feel the adrenaline flowing in my body. And it was incredibly uncomfortable. So I think this problem with the emotions during the starvation response, I think this leads us to kind of a complicated discussion of mind-body connection. So follow me here, work with me, humor me. This connection is profound and it is intricate. And it is between our physical state, our physical body, and our mental and emotional states and our physical body. And this is a two-way street, okay? So our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs can influence our physical state, and our physical state can influence our mental and emotional state. Now, I think we can all agree that our psychological state, thoughts, emotions, attitudes, stress, that kind of stuff can affect the functioning of our bodies. We have all experienced how anxiety can cause you to feel stomach trouble or digestive issues. Like you can feel sick to your stomach when things aren't going well or you're under a lot of stress. Or, how about how stress can make you sick, can like make you more susceptible by suppressing your immune system. It can make you more susceptible to getting the flu. Your emotions are affecting your body. We can totally all see that. Oh, by the way, the whole area of science dedicated to this suppression of the immune system is called psychoneuroimmunology. Say that 3 times fast. Psychoneuroimmunology. So that's been studied pretty well. I mean, it's pretty robust findings that the mind can impact the body. But the reverse is also true. This is a two-way street, remember. So our bodies can affect our minds, our emotions, our thoughts, and how we perceive what's happening in our world. Our body can affect our mind. And the starvation response is an excellent example of this. This response brings on, like I said, all kinds of physical changes that directly impact how we feel emotionally. First, we experience higher levels more of negative emotional states. So we feel more negative emotional states like tension, anger, depression, anxiety. Not only that, but coupled with feeling more negative feelings, we also feel less positive feelings. So, like, we're going up in negative feelings and we're going down in positive feelings. So, this gap here just gets bigger and bigger and bigger in the starvation response. So, these kinds of positive emotions that get lowered are like zest, enthusiasm for life, hopefulness, self-esteem, contentedness, satisfaction, those kinds of feelings. And these emotional changes can then impact how we behave in the world. And typically, I know you guys are going to understand this. Typically, those behavior changes are we're more impulsive, we are punitive, like snapping at people, and we are even more aggressive, like physically aggressive. Um, we've all had the experience of being on a diet and all of this stuff is happening, and your kid spills their milk in the kitchen and you scream at them. And it's not because you wanted to, it's just the emotional state is affecting your behavior, and your physical state is affecting your emotional state, which affects your behavior. So it's this wonderful two-way street. Now, follow me, keep following me. There's a process that humans do when they feel emotions. When we feel emotions, our minds want to make sense of them. They want to know why. They want to know what those emotions are connected to. Why am I feeling these emotions? We naturally scan our environment, our life, the people in our life, to see what's causing these emotions. What external thing in our environment is causing these emotions, these negative emotions? And and also the brain does this so that it knows what to do about the negative emotions. So we feel the negative emotions, we look at our environment to see what's causing the emotions, and then we decide what to do about it. I'm going to go over and punch that person in the face. I'm going to say I want a divorce. I'm going to say I quit my job. Okay. So the brain wants to know why we're feeling those emotions and what to do about it. Okay. But the problem with the starvation response is that those emotions are coming from internally in our bodies. It's the biochemical and neurochemical process of the starvation response that's causing those emotions. So we're sitting here having these negative emotions, looking in our environment to see who we can blame for them, and then to yell at somebody, when really those emotions have nothing to do with our external environment or anybody in them. Okay, it's because of what's happening in our bodies, and these emotions don't require us to do anything in our environment because they're not really coming from our environment. So if we go over and punch that guy in the nose, it really didn't have anything to do with that guy. It had to do with the fact that we're experiencing heightened negative emotions from the starvation response. So these emotions, I hesitate to say this because I don't want it to be taken too literally or generalized too much, but in the starvation response, these emotions are not based in reality. Okay. Now, that is not to say that your emotions are not based in reality. Most of them are, but with this starvation response, they are not. Okay. So how the hell do we get through this? Okay. First and most importantly, expect it. One of the worst things is to be blindsided by it and not know that it's going on. So expect that it will happen. Don't be surprised or upset that it's happening. You're not doing anything wrong. There's nothing you're doing wrong. It's just a natural biological process, nothing more. Don't read anything more into it than is there. Okay. And most importantly, it will pass. It does pass. The starvation response will resolve itself once the body gets re-regulated. Remember when I talked about withdrawal and detox, and that it would take a couple of days maybe for the body to re-regulate some hormones and restabilize our blood sugar and all that stuff. Well, this takes longer. It's usually a couple of months that it takes in order to really get this thing completely settled down. So I'm just going to tell you some of the strategies that I used to cope. Of course, like everything else with this addiction, you have to use the coping strategies that are going to work for you. But I'm just giving you an example. As an example, I'm going to tell you what I used to help myself. Okay. All right. First thing I used is that I reminded myself of actually what was going on. Like when I was starting to get really emotionally upset or starting to cry, I would remind myself, oh, okay, yeah, this is the starvation response. Don't need to panic. It's biological. I don't need to do anything. I just need to comfort myself and get through it. So it was just a reminder of that. The second thing that I used was distraction. And I used distraction a lot. I developed, and I think I said this in one of the other sessions, I developed a whole list of things I could do to distract myself, anywhere from 3 minutes to 30 minutes worth of time. So I would give myself something to do. Um, and that helped me. Sometimes I would do the distraction, and by the time I was done with it, the immediate like emotional peak had passed and had gone down a little bit. So I did use distraction a lot. The third thing I did is I listened to a ton of recovery podcasts. I listened to a ton, and some of them I listened to more than once. If they were really good, I would go back and I would listen. And someone said something once that, well, okay, so I'm geeky, but somebody told me something once about listening to podcasts. And they said, find the 3 gems from whatever podcast you're listening to, so that when the podcast is done, you will have 3 things that you got out of that podcast. And it's a different way of listening to them. That way you're paying more attention. So it's like, you know, take notes, you're going to have a book report on this later. So I used that technique to help me focus more on what was actually being said, as opposed to having, the Charlie Brown wah, 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 wah in my ears. I was actually paying attention to the content more. It was just, it worked for me. The fourth thing I did was intense physical care, because this is our body producing these emotions for us. And so we need to take care of the body. Okay. So I didn't need to go do therapy on it, because that's not what was really good. That wasn't the root of the problem. The root of the problem was physical, biochemical. So I did a lot of physical self-care stuff that would produce feelings in my body of just good, pleasurable feelings in my body, like wrapping up in a warm blanket, like a heated blanket, or maybe getting those neck things that have like the rice in them. So I would heat that up in the microwave, plop that on, bop a blanket over on me and sip some tea. Now, I know it seems like overkill, but that is like really trying to give my body some good feelings. So I did that kind of really intense physical self-care, and that seemed to help. Number 5, I prepared in advance for difficult food situations because I would get irritable in those situations. Like my irritability level was much higher than normal in those kinds of situations. And so I tried to really pre-prepare, pre-decide all of that stuff before I went into some of the different food situations. This was extremely helpful to me. I took a deep dive into steps 2 and 3 during this time, intensely exploring spirituality and what I wanted my spirituality to be so I could feel supported by my higher power during this time. Because again, I've only experienced it for myself, but when I talk to other people, they seem to tell me the same sorts of things. I felt crazy. I felt like I was crazy feeling this stuff. And I really needed my higher power to be on my side so I could feel less crazy. And it helped a lot. I didn't expect and I didn't pray for my higher power to stop it because I knew it was just physical laws of the planet. This is the way the body is made. So what I did is I prayed for help getting through it and to see more clearly what was going on. And that is that the emotions weren't attached to anything in my life. They were just happening because of the biological process. And so I needed that reassurance from my higher power that I wasn't crazy. And the last thing I did is I prayed and I meditated a lot. I really learned how to rely on my higher power during this time. And I really had to get to the place where my body wasn't intentionally lying to me. It wasn't malevolent and trying to get me. Um, it was just doing what it's made to do. And it's just sending out false, very powerful, but still false signals in the form of these negative emotions. And I had to use all of these coping strategies. Sometimes I used them all at once. I mean, I would throw anything at it I could because it was so noxious for me. So this leads me to our question tonight. Let me grab it. How does the starvation response show up for you? Anxiety, depression, irritability, hopelessness? What coping strategies have worked for you in the past and what hasn't? And I'm saying this because you need to get clear. Don't try and do things that haven't worked for you in the past. Why would they work for you now? So getting really clear on what has worked for you so you can set yourself up for success around it. So I'll set a timer for 5 minutes and we will go.
Thanks for recovering with us.